My name is Tonya Nicole Bishop Williams, and this is my presentation for CS 520 on encryption and data protection. What is encryption? In its most basic form, encryption is the process of encoding data, making it unintelligible and scrambled. In a lot of cases, encrypted data is also paired with an encryption key, and only those that possess the key will be able to open it. What is an encryption key? An encryption key is a collection of algorithms designed to be totally unique. These are able to scramble and unscramble data, essentially unlocking the information and turning it back to readable data. And below is just an image showing a sample encryption and decryption process. Public key cryptography is usually the person that is encrypting the data will also possess the key that locks the data and makes copies and can pass them on to the relevant people that require the access. The translation of data into a secret code, encryption is the most effective way to achieve data security. To read an encrypted file, you must have access to the secret key or password that enables you to decrypt it. Unencrypted data is called plain text. Encrypted data is referred to as ciphertext. There are two main types of encryption: asymmetric encryption, also called public key encryption, and symmetric encryption. Encryption is just one way you can prevent data theft. In cybersecurity, the need for encryption and tough security measures is at an all-time high, with an increasing number of businesses and consumers falling victim to a whole host of cyber crimes. Although the method of encrypting information is certainly not new, in fact, cryptography dates back to ancient times, the only real difference being that we now use electronic devices to generate unique encryption algorithms to scramble our data. Encryption and the Internet. These days, you'll find encryption in most things that run using an internet connection, from messaging apps and personal banking apps to websites and online payment methods. And for consumers, making sure your data cannot be stolen or used for ransom has never been more important. Utilizing encryption via SSL. Most legitimate websites use what is called Secure Sockets Layer, or SSL, which is a form of encrypting data when it is being sent to and from a website. This keeps attackers from accessing their data while it is in transit. Always look for the green padlock icon in the URL bar and the S in the HTTPS// to make sure you are conducting secure, encrypted transactions online. When to use SSL? Two ways: when you store or send sensitive data online. If you use the internet to carry out tasks such as filing your taxes, make purchases, renew your driver's license, or conduct any other personal business, visiting sites utilizing SSL is always a wise idea. A second time when to use SSL is when your work requires it. Your workplace may have encryption protocols, or it may be subject to regulations that require encryption. In these cases, encryption is a must. 3 reasons why encryption matters. The first reason why encryption matters is because internet privacy concerns are real. Encryption helps protect privacy by turning personal information into for your eyes only messages intended only for the parties that need them and no one else. You make sure that your emails are being sent over an encrypted connection or that you are encrypting each message. Most email clients come with the option for the encryption in the settings menu, and if you check your email with a web browser, take a moment to ensure that SSL encryption is available. The second reason why encryption matters is because hacking is big business. Hackers aren't just bored kids in a basement anymore. They're big business, and in some cases, they're multinational outfits. Large-scale data breaches that you may have heard about in the news demonstrate that people are out to steal personal information to fill their pockets. This image shows that 66% of people surveyed say that they would be unlikely to do business with an organization that experienced a breach where their financial and sensitive information was stolen. The third reason encryption matters is because regulations demand it. Healthcare providers are required by the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, or HIPAA, to implement security features that protect patient-sensitive health information. Institutions of higher learning must take similar steps under the Family Education Rights and Privacy Act, or FERPA, while retailers must contend with the Fair Credit Practices Act, or FCPA, and similar laws. Encryption helps businesses stay compliant as well as helps protect the valuable data of their customers. How much responsibility does an industry have to protect your data, and how much of that responsibility lies with you? I like this image. There's always an issue. It's not my fault, and somebody else is reporting it is your fault, pointing towards you. Data security is a responsibility. Companies should understand that consumers have entrusted them with vital personal information and should take responsibility to protect our information seriously. They should regularly review and evaluate privacy and security policies and adapt them to meet the privacy concerns of users. 4 ways businesses can protect consumer data. The first way businesses can protect consumer data is by using dedicated servers. When money is an issue, many small businesses resort to using a shared server to host files. For the most part, there's nothing wrong with this. However, one of the shortcomings is lack of security. People outside of the organization have access to the server, which opens up new points of vulnerability. While a dedicated server costs substantially more, businesses can take a proactive step towards protecting customers' data by investing in their own private server. This one step alone will significantly enhance the business's overall protection of our data. The second is to invest in data encryption. If you haven't updated your encryption technology in a couple years, or if the word encryption is totally unfamiliar to you, then it is time as businesses to modernize your approach to security. Businesses that don't prioritize data encryption are much more likely to have data stolen and compromised by attackers. Businesses should create a disaster plan. While every company hopes disaster never strikes, the likelihood of a data breach is actually quite high. While better protection obviously plays a role, businesses must have a plan for how they'll respond in the unfortunate instance that disaster strikes. The fourth thing that businesses should do to protect consumers is to implement better password policies. Businesses should ask themselves if they have a formal policy. If not, they are exposing their company's private data to unnecessary risk. Most hacking still happens via stealing or guessing a company's login to a particular system or program and using it to gain access to data. For each employee that has an account with a certain company, that is another potential entry point. The first thing companies should do is to require complex passwords. Something like password or 1234 isn't adequate. Companies should require employees to include characters, numbers, symbols in upper and lowercase. For example, this could also apply in our world as consumers on ways for us to protect ourselves. For very important accounts, it's also a smart idea for businesses to implement two-factor authentication. Data security is a worthwhile investment for businesses. Data security isn't a buzzword that businesses can ignore. If they do ignore it, businesses will eventually find themselves with a target on their back. Businesses have a moral and, in many cases, legal obligation to protect customers' data. This means taking a proactive stance and preventing issues before they arise. There are privacy risks largely within our control as consumers. This is a pretty big list, and I'm going to read them quickly. But the first is responding to social engineering. Secondly, talking on a cell phone in public. Failing to shred our paper documents. I think we've all been guilty of that one. Saying the wrong things on social media. Posting inappropriate photographs. Clicking on shortened links. This one particularly has gotten a lot of people in trouble because those shortened links oftentimes are from hackers who use those links to steal your personal data. Not understanding the disclosures or privacy settings of services and apps, we can all say that generally we don't even read what the Privacy Act says. We just click agree and move forward. Another one is failing to password protect our devices. Donating to a political campaign and having that made public. Being photographed in compromising situations. Entering contests. Failing to log out when accessing service on a public computer. Banking or shopping on unsecured Wi-Fi networks. That goes back to that SSL deal. Make sure it says HTTPS. And then failing to password protect your phone or computer or encrypt your files. And lastly, using weak passwords or the same passwords on multiple sites. All of these are things that are within our control as consumers to protect our privacy. This is a slide that shows privacy risks that are largely out of our control as consumers. Government subpoenas and warrants, good companies becoming evil, we can't control that. Individuals affected by a data breach outside their control, we can't control that. Just like if you use your debit card at a restaurant and that restaurant's security is breached, then therefore your security has been breached. Another is insurance companies that know too much, privacy laws and policies that do more harm than good, the leading industry. Ever look at who's looking at your credit report? A lot of people don't take the time to even check their credit report. Aggregation, which is weaving information from different sources to create a profile. That happens a lot on these job searches, that you use the website to search for a job and then they weave all your information together. Another one is being spied on while traveling, especially in totalitarian countries. And lastly, publicly available data such as home address and taxes you're paying. Here are some ways that we can protect our data. We can use file level and share level security. We can password protect our documents. We can use EFS encryption. We can use disk encryption. Use rights management to retain control. Make use of a public key infrastructure. Hide data with steganography. Protect data in transit with IP security. And secure wireless transmissions. I really enjoyed this image. The image on the left says, "This is your privacy." And the one on the right says, "This is your privacy online." Pretty much splat. Are there any questions? Finally, this is the reference page of all the references that I used in the creation of this PowerPoint. I hope you enjoyed.